Hi everyone, it is time for another round of Timmy's TBR. If you are new here and have never seen Timmy's TBR, it is my TBR game. I play it every single month. It's based off my love of Tim Hortons coffee, and it helps me pick what I need to read in the month. Sometimes it's nice, sometimes it's not. You just never really know what you're going to get with Timmy's, to be honest. And once a book goes on Timmy's TBR, it cannot come off of it unless I DNF it or I read it. Those are kind of the rules. So before we get into the actual rules, the new month, my November TBR, let's see how I did last month because I have not quite completed my TBR. Now, that being said, I do have a week left as of filming this video, so I may get maybe one more of these books done. I doubt any more than one, but one may happen still. Next week, I'm playing a mini round of my Timmy's game to vlog for the week. So I don't really know what I'm going to be reading next week. So if some of these work for what the mini board has in store, then I will get them done. If it doesn't, then it won't. So I have two Kindle books that I did not get to. One was The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson, and the other was The Witch Would Not by Olivia Atwater. And then there was also 3 physical books I did not get to, 2 of them being a series that I have put on, Blood of the Chosen and Emperor of Ruin. I do not want to rush these. These are highly, highly anticipated after I read Ashes of the Sun, so that's why I haven't picked them up yet, although if I do pick one up next week, it will probably be Blood of the Chosen. So this one may not roll over. It will depend on how next week goes. And then I also am rolling over Lord of Chaos, which as you can see, I have started, but this is about as far as I was last month when I rolled it over the first time. I really need to prioritize finishing this in November so badly. So yes, if you are counting along, we are starting the month with 5 books. So I do hope the rolls are somewhat kind to me. We'll see how it goes. I do have a few mandatory reads that I have to read, so hopefully I can fit those in as well. That being said, let's jump into our first Timmy's roll. Roll number 1 is a 7. Gets us to a coffee space and a smutty book. So our first roll got us to the prompt of smutty book, and for this one, I am going to read a Talia Hibbard book, A Girl Like Her. This is actually one of my buzzword picks that I still need to get to, and I love Talia, so I'm very excited to read this one, and Talia is definitely a smutty book writer. In this book, we follow Ruth, and Ruth lives in a small town. You know I love a good small town romance. But she is kind of an outcast in her small town. She doesn't like to go out and party. She doesn't really like to go out on the scene, and she likes to just kind of be in her house and do her own thing. Relatable queen. This is all fine until a new neighbor moves in next door, and that is Evan, and sparks fly between Ruth and Evan. But Ruth has been burned before. Can she let her guard down and let Evan in? Since I'm pretty sure this is a smutty book, I'm pretty sure she does. I have this on Kindle and I will grab the audiobook from somewhere. I'm really glad to get this one on the TBR. Roll number 2 is a 6, a Timbit space, and an author's debut novel. For roll number 2, we got a Timbit space and author's debut novel. If I don't read this book before the end of the year, Kelsey is going to be so mad with me. She wants me to read this book so badly, and I do too. It's been on my TBR card. It's a 5-star prediction. I need to read this book, and that is Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis. I even have the special edition of this book on my shelves, and I still have not read it yet. Like, I must read this book. In this book, we follow Elizabeth Sott in the 1960s, and she finds herself pregnant and unwed working at a research institute. The research institute forces her out for this, what they perceive scandal in the 1960s of her being unwed and pregnant, and she ends up having to take a job as a cooking TV show host. She goes at this hosting job from a very different perspective and tries to show women what they are made of at a molecular level. That is what the book says, and I'm excited to see what she does with this platform. This book is screaming a feminist commentary, and you know I love a feminist book. I've heard nothing but fantastic things about it, and I'm excited to see if this 5-star prediction lives up to that 5-star rating. Roll number 3 is a doubles 12. Gets us to a donut space and the prompt of favorite author. So our third roll was both good and bad because we got the maximum amount of spaces toward the end, and the game doesn't end until I get to the end. So, 12 spaces is good. But it also gave me a doubles, which means I have to do the prompt twice and fill it with 2 separate books. So you win some, you lose some, glass half full, glass half empty kind of situation. But the prompt is a very good prompt because we do love to read our favorite authors. For this first one, I am going to slot in the BNK Book Club for next month. BNK Book Club is a book club that I run with Kelsey, the person who has been dying for me to read Lessons in Chemistry. We have sprints every month for our book club book, and we talk about it on Discord. The link is down below if you want to join us. This month was my pick, and we are actually reading one of my favorite authors, so this is the perfect time for this prompt to pop up. We are reading Januaries by Olivia Blake. I adore Olivia Blake's writing style. It just really, really works for me. And this is a short story collection, which is not something I typically read a lot of, but I'm excited to read Olivia Blake's short story collection. I've read a short story by this author in these Hallowed Halls last year, and I did really like how Olivia Blake tackled a short story. Since this is a short story collection, I can't really tell you a little synopsis about it because obviously short stories, lots of different synopses. But I'm excited to dive in with Kelsey and any of you that would like to join us in November. The sprints for this will be on Kelsey's channel. I do not know the time yet, but if you join us in the Discord, you will know all the information as it happens. Another favorite author of mine is R.F. Quan, but I met R.F. Quan and she became a favorite author of mine with Babel, the Dark Academia book. I have yet to read what is probably her most famous series, which is The Poppy War. A big thank you to Brie who gifted this to me for my birthday. Thank you so much, Brie. I cannot wait to start this series. I know I'm going to love this. First of all, it's R.F. Quan. Second of all, it's like political wartime fantasy. These are things that I always do really gravitate towards. And I'm excited to see how R.F. Quan does with that type of fantasy since I originally have only read her Dark Academia. I've also read Yellowface, but again, Yellowface is not this kind of genre either. R.F. Quan can really just move through genres like no other author I've ever read. In this book, we follow Rin, and Rin just aced a test that nobody thought she could. And this has got her into the most elite military school in her land. While she is there, she finds out she actually possesses a very amazing amount of power from the gods. And how is she going to use this power with what is happening in this political system, which is on the cusp of turmoil, on the cusp of a third Poppy War? This is also a 5-star prediction for me, so we are really racking up the fabulous reads on this TBR. Roll number 4 is a 7, gets us to a Timbit space, and a romance. For the prompt of romance, I am going to read a baking romance, Fake It Till You Bake It by Jamie Wesley. This is a baking romance and almost adjacently a sports romance. So in this book, we follow Jada, and Jada is not doing well in the press right now. She just turned down a proposal on a very large dating show, and people have kind of turned on her. She then gets a job at a bakery to kind of like move on from this experience. And that bakery is called Sugar Blitz, and it's owned by Donovan Dell, who is an ex-professional football player. Hence the sports adjacent romance situation. A reporter mistakenly thinks that they are a couple and they decide to use this to their advantage. She needs the good press. He needs some press for the bakery because it's struggling. So they fake date. Fake dating is one of my favorite tropes in romance, even though, let's be honest, it's not realistic. Nobody really fake dates in real life, but like I love it. I love to read about it. I love baking romances and a sports romance. This has so many buzzwords for me. Then our last roll is an 11 and gets us to the end of the board and a mood read. For our mood read, I am going to get another buzzword on this list because I really do need to finish up buzzword. I'm a bit behind. I need to catch up. And some of these ones I just haven't accidentally filled because they are words that are hard. Only and like, you saw that I got Like a Girl, Like Her already on here, but this one is Only Love Can Hurt Like This. This one technically works for both words had I been able to double up, but we can't double up with buzzwords, so here we are. This book is by Paige Toon, and it follows Ren. Ren finds out that her fiance is in love with somebody else, so she calls off the wedding. She then decides to go across the country to Indiana to spend the summer with her father because she needs to just have a break. She needs a break from life, so that's where she goes. There she meets Anders, and Anders was widowed about 4 years ago. He does have some secrets, though, that Ren needs to unearth, but they do cross paths, and a romance does happen. I don't think that this book is necessarily a romance. I think it's a contemporary fiction book with a romance subplot. I got it recently at a book event, and we'll see if I end up liking it. Sometimes that genre works for me, sometimes it doesn't. It really just depends, but it does fill the buzzword, which is really my main goal at this point. Now, before we go into looking at my TBR, there will be one other book that is not on this list that I need to read, but as the time of filming this, I don't know what that book is. My patrons are currently voting on what our November-December book club book is, so I will need to read that book. I just don't know what it is. I will put it here in editing because I will know by the time I edit this what that book is going to be. Now that I could read in December, but I might read it in November. It will just depend on how it goes. So I'm not going to add it necessarily to the count of how many books are in this TBR, but it's definitely a possibility of being read in November. So here's your first look at my November TBR. I have 7 physical reads and 4 reads that are either on Kindle or have not arrived yet. Olivia Blake's book is not here yet. So that does leave me with 11 books on the TBR. It's a little bit chunky. It's a little bit big. We may have this one off before the end of the month, so we may get down to 10, but we'll see if I can get it done. I always go into the month with full faith that I can get it done, and then you just never really know what will happen. What is the book that you are excited to read in November? Let me know down in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.